What's the motherfucking deal, man? Welcome to the den. Thank you for checking us out today, man. I got a message that we need to talk about. Did Endgame, Thanos, reveal a secret message that all black people need to hear? But I am your host, Honcho, man. I appreciate you checking us out today, man. I got some things I want to speak about. Make sure you're following the den on all the proper social networks at Den Show Live on Instagram and Twitter. And if you fuck with Facebook, facebook.com/Den Show Live. I'm going to follow my personal social media. So you can go to Ed Honcho HTX. But let's just kind of get into it, man. A little bit of spoilers, maybe not too much. I'm not gonna try to ruin it. I got something else I'm gonna talk about maybe in a different video as far as spoilers and a lot of the virtue signaling and things that went on with this movie. But this, I'm gonna focus on something specific. First, I'm not gonna say. I'll give my opinion on the movie at the end of this video, and we'll kind of talk about it. Just a brief, not really a review, just my brief thoughts. But there was a particular line to me in this movie. And I guess I gotta explain something about myself. I'm a person that always roots for the bad guys in the movie, and Thanos is probably one of my favorite bad guys of all time. He might be up there. He's along with the Heath Ledger Joker, and old buddy Shagur from No Country for Old Men. I always root for the bad guy. I don't mean, maybe I'm not a bad guy. Maybe I don't know. I'm just fucking with y'all. But I always root for the bad guy. You know, I'm not always about the happy ending because it's usually not always happy endings in life. But I want to talk about something because this movie broke records and it just shitted on the box office and blew it up. People getting beat up for making spoilers and shit. I don't want y'all to beat me up, so I ain't gonna spoil too much. But you need to go and see it. I think it's a movie that you should have in your movie resume, repertoire, whatever. But there's a particular line out of this whole movie that stood out to me from everything else. There's a scene in this movie where Thanos says something, and it hit me like a brick. And if you've been fucking with the den, if you've been on the live streams, we have a lot of different arguments and debates. And no, it's not about being an all-black channel, but we do discuss black issues because, surprise, surprise, I'm a black person. But I think everybody needs to hear it because it can apply to other aspects of life too. But I think there's a big segment of the black population that hangs on to this one thing, and I think that if they applied this, that it would change. Thanos did some things, and he gave his reasoning as to why he did these things, and he had a change of plans. And like I said, I'm not trying to ruin the movie for anybody who hasn't seen it, but he said this line: "As long as there are those that remember what was, there will always be those that are unable to accept what can be. They will resist." And a lot of y'all are like, well, so what the fuck does that mean? Honcho, come on, like I don't get it. And if you don't get it, let's talk about it. We live in a day and age and society where anything is possible. But I have an issue with my black folks especially. We hold on to this thing that happened in America's history, black Americans, called slavery. And people use slavery as an excuse to justify everything. We live in a day and age where you see people of all races, creeds, and colors come up, overnight. There's black millionaires everywhere, not all through the entertainment industry, not all through athletics. But because they don't put them on the forefront of television, you complain about that too. You can really go search and find them if you really want to. And even throughout history, even in slave days, or immediately after slavery, there were a couple actually in slavery. There have been black millionaires. There have been black people who have been well off, who have been wealthy. Okay, and it's not all about money, but it's about mentality. And this is what I need you to understand. It's time to let go of slavery. Because there's always going to be those people who remember. It's in the history books. It's in everything that you look at. If it says something African American, they're going to talk about slavery and how slavery just held us back. Yeah, it may have been a hiccup for a lot of us, and this is not to undermine it. But nobody who's watching this video, nobody who's alive today, nobody who is living today was a victim of slavery. There may be a few people who are older who were victims of racism, but slavery itself, no. You can talk about modern day slavery, talk about all this other shit. There's gonna be people who are gonna come here and they're gonna try to dispute, try to say this and that. You were never put in chains. You were never forced to work, unless, maybe you went to prison or something. That's a different situation. But we use that to justify everything. We use that to justify the mentality we have now, the way we treat each other, all of these things. And I don't think it's going to change within, it's going to be a few generations before it does. I almost feel like that. But there are people today who no longer embrace that, who don't use that as an excuse. Acknowledge your history, be aware of your history, but you don't have to wallow in that history. So, but when I heard this, it was like, damn, it hit me like a ton of bricks, And this is not to say that I haven't already had this mentality. Again, like I said, you come here during the live stream, we're live every night, 10 p.m. Central. So become a part of the conversation. We'll talk about this tonight. You can call in and give your opinion. The line is open to everybody, whether you agree or disagree. We're all about free speech here, But again, as long as there are those who remember what was, which again is the books, the older generation who pass down their experiences to the younger generations, a lot of you have not experienced anything of that sort. But because you know somebody who has, you attach their experience to you, oh, they look like me, it could have happened to me. But it didn't necessarily happen to you. You have to live your own life. You have to live by your own experiences. There will always be those that are unable to accept what can be. I feel like if we as Black Americans, Black people, detached ourselves from worrying about that and everything that happened back then, we're trying to apply it to everybody who exists now, because nobody owns you. You're the master of your destiny. You control your experience. And we focus on what can be. We move so much further ahead as a people, so much faster. But when you're continually looking behind you, when you're looking behind yourself, what happens? If you were to walk outside your home and look backwards the whole time, continue walking forward, but look backwards. Walk forward, look backwards. You're gonna run into something. You might walk into the street, get hit by a car, walk into a tree, trip over something, and fall. And that's what I'm saying. That's the analogy I'm using to explain why a lot of us are not thriving. And a lot of us are using that as an excuse to quit. A lot of us are using that as an excuse to not push forward. And we can talk about the times, and we can talk about, Black Wall Street and the many other cases around the country that things have happened. That's not an excuse to stop pushing. So I find this as a problem. And again, I'm not applying it to myself directly because I don't think that way. But I think if more people would have caught this line, and that's why I'm sharing this, if more people would look into it and see, we lean one way politically, and that one way has never been a benefit to us. And you look on the other side, as soon as you talk about Black, Republicans or anything like that, or people who are more conservative minded or more independent minded, whatever it may be, because they don't subscribe to a particular ideology, they become ostracized, they become, exiled from the community because we're not buying into the victimhood. We're not buying into what happened, several hundred years ago that is no longer an issue today. There are incidents, there are cases. I take everything as a case-by-case basis, but those things don't apply to me because it hasn't happened to me. Large Black man, tattoos, dreads, all of these things, right? I've had my run-ins with the law, all of this stuff. How can a person like me, who is supposed to be the stereotype, the statistic, the thing that everybody said, this is why, because we do this, the natural hair, the long hair, all this stuff. How I can go through my life not feeling oppressed, not feeling ostracized by racism, by slavery, and I'm well aware of the history. I'm well read, I understand the things that took place. Know your history. You should know your history. If you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it, correct? And that's part of the problem, because we look at the history, we talk about how it impacts it, but we don't look at it from a perspective of, okay, that happened. Let's make sure we move in a manner that doesn't happen again. Instead, we're like pigs in the mud. We wallow in it. We roll around in it. That's the legitimate excuse for everything that's happening. But then you look at the people who don't think that way. Again, we call them, we say, oh, they think white, they act white. But then they're living good lives. They're not selling themselves out, because that's the first excuse somebody's gonna make. Oh, well, they're a sellout, or they forgot where they came from. Yeah, if what you came from is poverty and living like trash, or living in a mentality that has hindered you, then yeah, you should absolutely fucking forget where the fuck you came from. We use this as an excuse as to why we can't succeed. We tell our children this is what's going to happen to you, and then they use that as an excuse to why they can't succeed. We make justifications for everything. It's time to let go of the old beliefs. All of you, every black person, every nigga I know has gone out and seen the fucking movie. And if this line didn't strike you, you need to go back, watch it again, or think about what's being said. Because his goal was creating a new world, a better world, or where people would thrive. And, you know, he failed initially, whatever happened, however you want to talk about it. They will resist. That's a very important part of the line, because that's the resisting. What we're going through right now is the resistance, because all the people who remember it, who read up on it, and they feel emotionally attached to it, and not looking at, okay, well, this is what happened, these are the facts, this is how we get away from it, this is how we grow, this is how we benefit ourselves. If you don't accept it, well, you're oppressed. No, I'm not oppressed. People tell me that. I'm like, how can you tell me how I feel? I don't understand that. I've only been held back by my own mentality. I've only been held back by myself. Anytime that I've ever made mistakes, nobody has, forced them upon me. It's been my own decisions, my own choices. And it's not about me. This is about you. This is about whoever's watching. This is about maybe a message that you can share with a friend. They will resist. Because if you try to tell anybody, hey man, if we move differently, if we operate differently, if we start thinking differently, then our outcome will be different. But instead, we continue to do the same things we've been doing for quite some time, for several decades, after slavery, nearly 100 years or so afterwards, and continue to oppress and ostracize ourselves, exile ourselves. The people who do well get out of neighborhoods where it's a bad look for them. They get discredited. Nipsey, big fan of Nipsey Hussle, and I believe he was a dropout, gangbanger, all this other stuff. And he changed the outcome, right? So how was he able to do it? And then people say, well, the government got in. I don't want to hear all that bullshit, okay? Because he made moves before any of that happened. So imagine what would happen if we as a collective thought like that, instead of thinking, oh, we're oppressed, we're hindered. Imagine the power plays you can make, Somebody told me, and I don't believe this is a fact, that black people have the most buying power in the world, or in America. If that's the truth, then we've been fucking up. I mean, why are we not, if we have the most buying power, which means we have the most liquid money or the most money to spend, which we spend money, we are liquid, we buy it on frivolous shit as a collective, and I'm not saying me personally, but so why aren't we doing better as a whole? Why are we not spending on the right things? It's knowledge, it's information. It's because we're so concerned with being oppressed and being held down, right? That we're not making the right decision. We're not making a smart decision. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to, do all these other things they say you have to do. The knowledge is in books everywhere, but you're reading the wrong books. You're reading books that stroke that feeling, that stroke that belief of, I can't make it because the white man is holding me down, or this person is holding me down. So I can't succeed because it's just powers that are greater than me. Same people holler black power, holler all this other stuff. Well, what is that power? What does that mean? Again, one more time. As long as there are those that remember what was, there will always be those that are unable to accept what can be. And that's the problem. We're unable to accept what can be because we're so worried about what was. How did we get here? How is it? Hey, we're here. Let's make it shake. Let's do something different. Let's change the game. Let's grow. Let's blossom. Let's benefit. Let's get ourselves out of these communities. Let's clean these communities. Let's clean up these neighborhoods. Let's clean up the way that we operate. And we all benefit. But instead, there's a large group of us who want to sit here and say, well, we can't. Why can't we? Well, because 100 years ago, because 50 years ago, they didn't have the technology that we have today. You have access to creating your own entertainment network of sorts. You can do anything if you put your mind to it. If you stop worrying about what had happened, if I do this, this could possibly happen to me because it happened to someone else. Your story is not the same as theirs. Your skin color may be, your background may be, but your decision making doesn't have to always be the same as someone else's. And if you make the changes mentally, physically, the outcome will change. Again, as long as there are those that remember what was, there will always be those that are unable to accept what can be. They will resist. Stop resisting. Change your mentality, change your mind, change your beliefs, change the way you operate, and see your life change. I think this is a very important message, and I think that this line was overlooked because it was in the midst of a very climactic scene and things that were taking place. You got to look for those little nuggets. I say that a little nugget of knowledge will get you further than college. If you have a trade, it can take you very far without as much debt. If you have a skill set and you focus on that skill set, becoming a master of that skill set, it can take you very far. You have to understand yourself. Pay homage and pay respect to those who went through those things so that we have this platform now, that we have this ability now to grow. Take the stairs. Let's go up. Let's not continue walking in a straight line. Let's not say, well, this happened to those back then. I have this false sense of integrity that I got to hold it down for them because, you know, I got to keep it real. Keeping it real can keep you broke. You know, we glorify the bullshit. We glorify shit because, oh, they came from the same neighborhood as we did. They came from the same environment. Man, follow better blueprints because they're out there. So I just wanted to share this video again and my thoughts on this issue. I know there's gonna be a lot of people who are not gonna agree, and that's fine. And it really doesn't matter because I know what has worked for me. When I changed my mind several years ago, when I started changing the way I thought, when I started looking at my flaws, when I started to analyze my behaviors and what was keeping me in a certain place and what was helping me grow. It's time for a change. And I think, again, like I said, of all the people who've seen this movie, that should impact you whether you're white, black, pink, purple, gray. Look at what has been holding you back because you remember what it used to be or who you used to be, what you used to be. Who cares what people think of you? Move forward. Stop resisting. Anyway, I said that I would share my opinion on this movie, right? It was an okay movie. It was a good movie. Great. Awesome, legendary, special effects, all those things. I brought everything back to a head. Cool. I tied everything in. Cool. I acknowledge that. I'm gonna be honest, man. It was a good movie. I don't believe it was super exceptional. Don't hit me with the thumbs down for that. If you don't like my message before, fine, thumbs that down, but don't thumbs down my opinion. But if you haven't seen it, I suggest you go out and check it out. I'm trying to do my best to not spoil too much of it for you. But again, hey, we'll be live tonight. We're live every night, don't matter what day you catch this. We're live every night, 10 p.m. Central Time to midnight. TheDenShow.com, or you go to TheDenShow.com/live and bring you right to the live feed on YouTube. Again, I'm Ed Honcho. If you like what's going on here, consider going to streamlabs.com/TheDenShow and supporting the channel. And I appreciate all of you who have. So let me know how you feel, man. Do you agree? Do you disagree with what I said about that line, about that particular message? Do you agree or disagree with what I said about the movie? Again, all opinions are welcome. Feel free to call in tonight when we're live. I'll share your call on the air live. We'll discuss it, whatever's on your mind. But with that being said, hey, man, it's your boy Ed Honcho. I'm chugging up the deuce. Y'all be cool like y'all be cool. I appreciate you checking out the video. Until next time, like, share, subscribe, all that good button. Hit that notification bell if you're new here. I'm out.